Did you know that 1 in 5 UK residents is considering leaving the country by 2030? That's right. Millions are planning to escape what many believe is a falling economy, rising crime, and a struggling healthcare system. But what if we told you that the UK you know today might be unrecognisable in just a few years? Housing costs are skyrocketing, job opportunities are disappearing, and the UK's political future seems more uncertain than ever. So why wait until it's too late? You're probably asking yourself, why leave the UK when it's still home? Well, hold on. By the end of this video, you'll understand why staying might not be the smartest choice for your future. The cost of living is out of control, with everyday expenses becoming harder to manage, and by 2030, it might be impossible to afford the life you want. But it's not just about money. We're talking about a decline in education, a weakened healthcare system, and rising crime rates. A perfect storm, brewing that could leave you struggling to survive. But it's not all doom and gloom. Stick around as we dive into 10 reasons why leaving the UK before 2030 might be your best bet for securing a better life, safer environment, and a brighter future. Trust us. You won't want to miss this. Number 1. Rising cost of living. One of the most pressing reasons you might want to leave the UK before 2030 is the ever-increasing cost of living. Over the past decade, the financial pressure on residents has grown tremendously, and the next decade doesn't look any better. From soaring housing costs to rising utility bills, the UK is becoming an increasingly expensive place to live, particularly in major cities like London, Manchester, and Birmingham. Housing's one of the biggest contributors to this financial burden. Property prices have been steadily climbing, making home ownership a distant dream for many. In fact, house prices have surged by over 50% in the past 10 years alone. As a result, rent prices are also skyrocketing, leaving many people with little to no disposable income after covering their housing expenses. By 2030, it's predicted that the UK's housing market will become even more unaffordable, and the dream of buying a home might be out of reach for most. But it's not just property prices. Everyday living expenses are increasing too. From the weekly grocery shop to transportation costs, the average person is feeling the strain. Energy prices have also been on the rise, and gas and electricity bills are expected to increase even further in the coming years. If you're already struggling to make ends meet, imagine the pressure when costs continue to rise at this rate. For many, the dream of a comfortable life in the UK is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. If these financial pressures aren't addressed, it could lead to a future where only the wealthiest can afford to live comfortably, while the middle and lower classes face even greater financial strain. If you're considering your future, now might be the time to explore other countries where the cost of living is more manageable. Number 2. Political instability and uncertainty. The political landscape in the UK has been shifting dramatically over the past few years, and experts predict that the uncertainty and instability will only increase as we approach 2018-2030. With ongoing issues like Brexit, fluctuating government leadership, and rising political divisions, the country may face a future that's far less predictable and stable than it once was. The aftermath of Brexit has left the UK with unresolved economic, trade, and diplomatic challenges. Despite leaving the European Union, the long-term effects continue to unfold, particularly in trade agreements and foreign relations. As the UK navigates its new role on the global stage, there's no telling how future negotiations might unfold. This uncertainty makes long-term planning a gamble, especially when it comes to businesses, foreign investments, and job security. With every policy shift or new regulation, it feels like the UK's position is constantly in flux. Add to this the political gridlock and constant changes in leadership, and the future looks even more unpredictable. With parties becoming more polarised and divided, it's difficult to imagine a future where political stability is guaranteed. Public dissatisfaction with government policies is at an all-time high, and protests over economic policies, social issues, and healthcare are becoming increasingly common. As the next general elections approach, many wonder if the country will face more turmoil, or if there will be effective reforms to address the growing tensions. If these issues aren't resolved soon, the UK could see further economic stagnation and social unrest in the coming decade. In short, the political instability in the UK is creating a cloud of uncertainty over the future. With no clear direction or resolution in sight, this environment could lead many to seriously reconsider their future in the UK by 2030. Number 3. Climate change and environmental decline. Climate change is no longer just a future concern. Its impacts are already being felt across the globe, and the UK is no exception. If you're considering leaving the UK before 2030, the environmental threats facing the country might be one of the most pressing reasons to act. The UK is experiencing increasingly extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and more frequent flooding, all of which could make life in some areas far more difficult in the coming decade. One of the most significant threats is flooding. Coastal cities like London, Liverpool, and Cardiff are at risk of rising sea levels, which could cause widespread damage to property, infrastructure, and homes. According to experts, rising sea levels could affect low-lying areas, submerging valuable land and forcing communities to relocate. Flooding is expected to become more frequent and severe, particularly in the south of England. Homes in these regions could become uninsurable, leaving residents vulnerable and unable to recover from environmental disasters. In addition to coastal flooding, the UK is experiencing more extreme weather than ever before. Heat waves, droughts, and storms are becoming more common, making daily life more unpredictable. For instance, 2021 saw record-breaking heat waves that put pressure on water supplies, agriculture, and public health systems. If this trend continues, we could see severe water shortages, agricultural failures, and energy supply issues, all of which could affect the quality of life for millions of people. Furthermore, the UK is facing a decline in biodiversity, with pollution and habitat destruction threatening native species. The government's ability to manage environmental crises is limited, and some areas may face a future where climate-related challenges become a daily struggle. If you're concerned about living in an environment that's increasingly unpredictable, climate change could be a major reason to reconsider your future in the UK. Other countries with more resilient infrastructures or better climate management strategies might offer a safer, more sustainable future. Number 4. Declining healthcare services. The NHS, once a pillar of pride for the UK, is increasingly under pressure, and by 2030 it may struggle to provide the level of care that the country has come to expect. If you're considering whether to leave the UK, the declining quality of healthcare could be one of the most significant factors to weigh in, with issues like staff shortages, long wait times, and limited funding. The future of the NHS is uncertain, and many are predicting a healthcare crisis on the horizon. Staff shortages in the NHS are already a major issue. According to reports, the NHS is facing a severe shortage of doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. Thousands of vacancies remain unfilled, and the situation is expected to worsen in the coming years. Many healthcare workers are leaving the profession due to burnout, poor working conditions, and low pay. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated these issues, and the demand for healthcare services has only increased, putting even more strain on an already overstretched system. This shortage means that you could face longer waiting times for appointments, procedures, and even emergency care, as fewer healthcare workers are available to meet growing demand. In addition to staffing issues, funding cuts and underinvestment in the NHS have led to declining standards of care. Hospitals and clinics are becoming increasingly underfunded, and resources are stretched thin. The lack of investment in infrastructure means outdated equipment and facilities, which impacts the quality of care patients receive. In some areas, healthcare services are being reduced, leading to less access to vital treatments and services. For those living in areas with already strained healthcare systems, the future could mean poorer care and more limited access to healthcare services. If the NHS continues to face these challenges, private healthcare or relocating to countries with more reliable healthcare systems could become more appealing options. The uncertainty of healthcare in the UK means that many people may need to seriously consider alternative countries where they can access more consistent and quality healthcare. Number 5. Limited job opportunities for the next generation. The job market in the UK has been under increasing strain, and experts predict that by 2030, it will become even more difficult for young professionals to secure stable, well-paying jobs. If you're considering staying in the UK, the lack of job opportunities and the rise of automation might make you rethink your decision. With the world evolving rapidly, especially in the wake of technological advances and global competition, the UK's job market could become far less accommodating for the next generation. Automation is already replacing jobs across multiple industries, from retail to manufacturing and even finance. By 2030, jobs in sectors like customer service, data entry, and transportation are likely to be automated to a much greater degree. AI and machine learning are changing the way businesses operate, and many entry-level roles are becoming obsolete. This will leave many young people struggling to find work in fields that once offered promising career paths. In addition, workers may be forced to retrain for highly specialised roles, creating a growing skills gap that will make it harder for the general population to stay competitive in the workforce. On top of automation, the UK is facing a lack of opportunities for young professionals in key sectors. Graduates are finding it more difficult to break into industries like engineering, media, and technology as competition rises and the job market becomes more saturated. Graduate schemes and internships are limited, and unpaid positions are becoming more common, making it harder for young people to gain experience and financial independence. Meanwhile, many young entrepreneurs are turning to countries with better support systems for startups and businesses, where tax incentives, lower costs of living, and more vibrant economies make it easier to grow a business. For young people looking for better career opportunities, the UK might not be the best place to build their future. In summary, the future job market in the UK looks increasingly challenging, particularly for the younger generation. With automation and global competition creating barriers, it might be worth considering other countries that offer more promising career paths and a higher quality of life. Number 6. High taxes and economic burden. As the UK faces a variety of economic challenges, one factor that could drive more people to consider leaving the country before 2030 is the increasing tax burden. With rising costs of living, a struggling healthcare system, and growing public debt, the UK government may have no choice but to raise taxes in the coming years. For individuals and families already grappling with high living expenses, this added financial pressure could become unsustainable, making relocation to countries with lower taxes and better economic conditions a more appealing option. The UK's tax system, already one of the higher tax regimes in the developed world, could see increases in areas such as income tax, national insurance contributions, property tax, and capital gains tax. As the government attempts to address national debt and cover the costs of public services, these hikes could significantly affect the average person's take-home pay. For middle-income earners, these increases could mean the difference between financial stability and financial strain. Additionally, as the government focuses on economic recovery post-pandemic and attempts to address climate change, carbon taxes and other environmental levies are likely to increase. While this could help in the long term, in the short term, it would place even more strain on already tight household budgets. If energy prices rise, combined with higher taxes, many households might find it difficult to manage both their everyday living expenses and long-term savings. The wealthy may also face higher taxes, with new measures aimed at reducing economic inequality. But these increases could discourage investment and savings, and lead to potential capital flight. Many business owners and high net worth individuals may look to relocate to countries with lower tax rates and better incentives. For those seeking to reduce their financial burdens, countries with lower taxes and a more manageable cost of living could offer better opportunities for long-term financial security. With the UK's financial strain expected to intensify, it may be time to consider relocating to a nation with a more favourable economic climate. Number 7. Increasing crime rates and social tensions. Another major factor to consider if you're thinking about leaving the UK before 2030 is the rising crime rates and social tensions that are becoming more evident in several areas. While crime is a concern for any country, the UK's crime rates have been steadily climbing, especially in urban centres, leading many to question whether the safety and security they once took for granted can continue in the future. With economic disparity, political instability, and rising frustration in certain communities, social unrest and crime are likely to increase. One of the most concerning trends is the rise in violent crime. Over the past few years, incidents of knife crime, gang violence, and street crime have been making headlines, particularly in cities like London and Manchester. Law enforcement agencies have reported an increase in youth violence, with gangs becoming more organised and violent. As social inequality continues to grow, the likelihood of these crimes escalating could put public safety at greater risk, particularly in disadvantaged neighbourhoods. Beyond violence, the social tensions in the UK are also on the rise. Issues like immigration, housing, and economic inequality are creating divides between different social and ethnic groups. Political polarisation is intensifying, and protests and demonstrations are becoming more common as people express their dissatisfaction with government policies. As tensions increase, the threat of social unrest may become a more frequent reality, leading to more frequent clashes between police and protesters and higher levels of public frustration. Additionally, as resources for public services like healthcare and education become more strained, frustration will likely continue to build. The combination of rising crime, political instability, and social divides will create an environment that may feel increasingly unsafe for many. For those who value personal safety and community stability, leaving the UK might become an attractive option. Relocating to countries with lower crime rates, greater social cohesion, and more effective policing could offer peace of mind in an increasingly uncertain future. Number 8. Limited housing availability. If you're considering leaving the UK before 2030, the housing crisis should be high on your list of reasons. The UK's housing market has become one of the most challenging and unaffordable in Europe, and experts predict that this situation is only going to worsen in the coming decade. With rising property prices, limited availability, and high rents, many people are finding it increasingly difficult to secure affordable housing. For individuals and families looking to maintain a stable and comfortable living situation, the current housing landscape may no longer offer that possibility. One of the most pressing issues is the sheer lack of housing supply. Despite ongoing efforts to build more homes, the demand for property continues to outpace supply, particularly in major cities like London, Manchester, and Birmingham. According to reports, the UK needs hundreds of thousands of new homes each year just to meet the growing population and the increasing demand for affordable housing. However, construction rates have struggled to keep up, leading to a severe housing shortage that drives up prices and rents across the board. For those looking to buy property, the situation is even more dire. Property prices have skyrocketed over the past decade, with the average home price in the UK nearly doubling in some areas. In cities like London, property prices have surged to unbelievable highs, making home ownership increasingly out of reach for many. And as prices continue to rise, young buyers and first-time homeowners are being pushed further out of the market, often having to rent for longer periods. Renting is no easier. As the demand for rental properties grows, rents have been climbing steadily, making it more difficult for renters to find affordable housing. In cities with limited rental supply, rents are reaching unsustainable levels, leaving tenants with little choice but to spend a larger percentage of their income on accommodation. As housing costs continue to rise, relocating to countries with more affordable and available housing options could offer a more secure future. Whether for property ownership or finding affordable rent, other nations could provide a better opportunity to settle down without the constant stress of housing instability. Number 9. Reduced quality of education. If you're considering leaving the UK before 2030, the decline in education quality could be one of the most compelling reasons. Education has long been a priority in the UK, but due to budget cuts, overcrowded classrooms, and staff shortages, the quality of both primary and secondary education has been steadily declining. For parents and young people hoping to secure a bright future, this trend is concerning. The UK's education system may struggle to provide the same level of opportunity and excellence it once did. One of the key issues is the underfunding of schools. Many schools, particularly in deprived areas, have seen their budgets slashed in recent years, leading to a lack of essential resources. This includes outdated textbooks, limited access to technology, and the inability to hire enough qualified staff to meet students' needs. With increasing class sizes and a shortage of teachers, students often don't receive the personalised attention and support they need to thrive academically. Moreover, the gap between affluent and disadvantaged areas is widening. Children in wealthier neighbourhoods have access to better funded schools, more extracurricular opportunities, and more academic support, while those in lower income areas face overcrowded classrooms and fewer resources. This disparity limits the chances of many young people reaching their full potential, further perpetuating inequality in society. As the UK struggles with these issues, it's expected that by 2030, the quality of education will continue to decline. University admissions will likely become even more competitive, while graduates may find themselves entering a job market that offers fewer opportunities due to economic instability. For parents who are concerned about the future of their children's education, countries with better funded schools, smaller class sizes, and a more equitable education system may offer better prospects. Moving abroad could provide an opportunity for children to receive an education that is more supportive, accessible, and conducive to success in the global job market. Number 10. Better opportunities abroad. For many, leaving the UK before 2030 might seem like the most practical choice, particularly when considering the better opportunities available in other countries. As the UK faces rising costs of living, political instability, and an uncertain future, relocating abroad could open doors to a higher quality of life, better career prospects, and more affordable living. Many nations around the world offer a more stable environment, with lower taxes, better healthcare systems, and more welcoming immigration policies. A stark contrast to what the UK might offer in the coming decade. Countries like Canada, Australia, and Germany are particularly appealing for their strong economies, high-quality healthcare, and excellent educational systems. These countries have also made strides in ensuring that their residents enjoy a higher standard of living. For instance, the cost of living in cities like Toronto, Melbourne, or Berlin is often more affordable than major UK cities like London, especially when considering factors like housing costs, tax rates, and healthcare expenses. Furthermore, the job market in many of these countries is booming, with lower unemployment rates and more opportunities in emerging sectors like technology, engineering, and green energy. Many nations have also introduced skilled worker programs that make it easier for professionals to migrate and work in fields where there's a demand for talent. If you're seeking career advancement or better pay, moving to a country with a stronger job market can make a significant difference in your financial future. For those seeking personal safety, countries with lower crime rates and political stability offer peace of mind and a sense of security for you and your family. Relocating to a nation with a stable government and less social unrest can provide a more peaceful environment, free from the anxieties that might come with living in an uncertain or politically unstable region. So, is it time to leave the UK before 2030? With rising costs, a fragile political climate, and an uncertain future, the UK is rapidly becoming a place where many are questioning whether staying is the right choice. From the housing crisis to declining healthcare and educational standards, the challenges ahead could make daily life far harder than it is now. If you're someone who values financial stability, personal safety, and a better quality of life, moving abroad might not just be an option. It might be the best decision you can make for your future. Countries like Canada, Australia, and Germany are offering better opportunities with more affordable living, stronger economies, and higher standards of living. The job market is healthier, the healthcare system is more reliable, and the quality of education remains top-notch. As we've seen, staying in the UK could mean navigating a more expensive, politically unstable, and dangerous environment in the coming years. For many, the appeal of a fresh start in a more welcoming and prosperous country is hard to ignore. We've put a lot of effort into bringing you this eye-opening content, and now we want to hear from you. Would you leave the UK by 2030? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to know what you think. And if you found this video valuable, hit subscribe. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.